The Salt Lake City Airport is smoke-free. Individuals within the airport and personal designated smoking area curbside. Thank you.
Hey, everybody.
Hi,
How are you today?
good. How are you, Julie?
Doing pretty good, thank you.
Great.
Hey,
Julie.
Hello.
So I just want to make sure, why do we have this record on?
Why do we have what?
Is it recording right now?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder why.
You need to make me co-host.
Oh,
That's weird that it didn't stay. Because then I can unrecord. We selected automatically record to cloud.
gotcha.
Thank you. Okay.
I think it looks like we have about 16 folks on board. And okay, people are still coming in. But hi everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our second session at Talk, Text, and Train. We are going into another resource information presentation. We have Vishnu Desai from University of Maryland joining us with more training information about the Affordable Connectivity Plan. Before we get started, though, I do want to go over a few rules that we decided we need to have in place for our sessions. And that is that we are going to have the chat boxes being disabled during presentations. in respect of our blind participants, because the chat box causes their screen readers to be talking in the background while they're trying to hear the presenters. So the chat box is disabled. We're encouraging you with your questions to raise your hand, and our host Julie will call on you when we're ready to take questions. And we will enable the chat box towards the end so that if any information needs to be dropped in, we can do that. We will first hear from Vishnu until about 1:30, and then we'll hear from Marguerite Woods with National Federation of the Blind. Additionally, after the session, I will follow up with an email that has the survey. It will also be in the chat box at the end as well. But your feedback on the presentations is very, very important. We're learning so much as we go along, so I appreciate that. Couple other announcements. I hope that you got my email regarding the iPhone. The iPhones that have been distributed in the kits need to come back to Teltex so that the manual triple button click will activate the voiceover feature of the iPhone. So please, some of you may have been able to work around that, but by having a sighted friend activate the feature, but to my understanding, it will need to go back to Teltex, our provider, to have that setting adjusted. And I'd like to get that done. I know that session isn't until December, but I'd really like to get it done for you so that we're all set and ready to go. And I think there was something else, but I don't remember what it is right now. So I'm just going to turn this over to Vishnu and we'll get started. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. My name is Vishnu Desai, and I'm from University of Maryland with the Digital Navigation Program. And today I'm here to give you a presentation on ACP training. ACP is Affordable Connectivity Program that helps you get free internet for your home. So we're going to get into some basic introduction of what the program is, who is eligible, how to apply. You'll have my contact details, and we'll be able to ask questions as well. I do have my colleague here, Maria, with me. So if there are questions that I'm not able to answer, she'll be here staying till the end of this meeting to answer some of those questions. So without further delay, let's just dive into the program. What is ACP Benefit Program? It is a federal program provided by Federal Communications Commissions, which gives you monthly discount towards your home internet bill. It gives you $30, and if you are a Maryland resident, then Maryland puts in additional $15. So your total discount towards the home internet bill is $45. Again, you don't have to do anything separate for receiving that additional $15. If you apply for ACP, you would automatically get that additional $15 because you have Maryland address. Next slide. Who is eligible for this program? So any household that has an income below 200 percentile of the federal poverty guidelines, or if they're participating in any of the programs which are low income based, for example, SNAP, or we commonly call it food stamps, health insurance program called Medicaid. Again, that is a state health insurance program called Medicaid. If you are receiving benefit from a federal housing building, if you are receiving Social Security income, WIC, Lifeline, Veterans Pension, if you have a college student that is going to college and gets a Pell Grant, you could also be eligible for ACP. For kids who are in school, and if they're part of the school lunch program, they can get. And if you don't participate in any of these programs that I mentioned, but your income is below 200 percentile, you would still qualify, and we would have to just give documents which shows that that is what your income is. And I'll get in the detail when we get in the document section. Next. So how do we apply for this benefit? I want to make sure I clarify this. This is a two-step process. The first step is that you go on a website called getinternet.gov, and that is where you would do the online application. Once you finish your application, you would get an application ID number, which you would then give it to the internet service provider. For example, Comcast, Verizon, some people even refer to it as Xfinity or Fios, or any other service provider you may have in your area, like Quantum, BreezeLine, so and so. Most of all internet service providers do participate in this ACP program. And like I said, it is a two-step process. Sometimes I do have people confusing where they'll apply for ACP, they'll be approved, and then they're waiting for the check to come in the mail. You don't really get a check in your mail. The discount is applied directly on your bill. So that is why it's important that you give a call to that service provider, the internet service provider, and then get that benefit applied. Can we go to next? So in a few minutes, we are going to get into the online application, how it works on the website. My colleague Maria was able to check with FCC. Their website is accessible. So those of you who might need some help in accessing that website, you should be able to apply on it. And if you don't, then we are definitely here to help you. But before you do your application, let's take a quick peek at what documents do you need for applying. Basically, you need two category of documents. One is a proof of ID, which is a government ID, driver's license, state ID, birth certificate, passport, any of those kind of IDs. The second is proof of income. So you would either use your benefit letter. So I want to clarify here because I do have people who come in and they'll be like, oh, here is my SNAP card or here is my Medicaid card. But unfortunately, the application does not accept that. And so we need the actual benefit statement letter saying you qualify for SNAP benefit from this day, because they want to make sure that your benefit is current. So it should be no more than 12 months old document. And if you don't have any of the participating programs, and if you're trying to prove it based on income, then you would need your prior year tax returns or your W-2s. Or if you have your pay stubs, you would need 3 pay stubs if you are getting paid monthly. And so remember, if you're paying bi-weekly, then you would need 6 pay stubs to show that you have a certain number of income. I keep talking about the income, which is 200 percentile. So I want to give you some numbers. So if you are a household of 1 person, then your income would be $29,160 per year. If you're a household of 2, then your income would be $39,440. If your income of if you're people of 3 in a household, then that would be 49. If you're a household of 4, your income is below 60,000. So basically, on an approximate, 10,000 increases per additional member in a household. Next slide. Okay, so now that we know the benefit, we know who is eligible, we sort of have an idea of what documents we need. This is how you would start your application process. You would first go to the website called getinternet.gov. Again, I'm going to repeat that. The website is getinternet.gov. When you click on the website, a page would open up with FCC, and towards the left center, I would say, there would be a button that says Apply Now. And so you would click on that. Let's go to the next. Once you hit Apply Now, you will have a screen pop up which says Fill out your information. And in this, the first category of information is you have to put in your address. I want to make a point here. Please make sure that the address is where you really want the internet to come at. So if you have two different addresses, I would say please stick to the address where you are staying and where you want the internet to be applied at. Also try to make sure that the address on your documents that you're using as proof is matching to the address you're putting in the application. I cannot emphasize this point, how many times an application gets rejected because the addresses are not matching or the names are not matching. So it's very important that we make sure that the name and your address matches your ID on the application. Another point about the name, I would say just stay to your first name and last name, and I would try to avoid just using a middle name to avoid more confusion. Sometimes IDs don't have a middle name and sometimes they do, so I just keep it simple with first name and last name. So let's try to understand the application first. So we're going to enter our home address, starting with your home number and then the street name. If you have an apartment, you would put that in the second line. Then you would put in the city, state, and the zip code. And then to the bottom right corner, it'll give you a blue button that says next, where you would put in your email address and then just hit next. Next slide. Once you hit next on your address screen with email address, you would get another screen where it's asking you for verifying who you are. So there are two ways you can verify. One, you can give your social security. And again, you don't need a whole social security. You just need the last four. And that is usually the fastest way to apply. So I would recommend that if you're comfortable with it, please use the last four of your social. If you're not, then you can hit no and still apply for the process, but it'll ask you to upload like a driver's license or an ID document. So in this case, we're going to just select the first option, which says, yes, use the last four of my social. Another window will pop up after that, where you would enter in the last four of your social. And then to, again, bottom right, there will be a blue button that will say next. And then when you hit that, it'll take you to the next screen. And you'll be able to add in your name and stuff. For 1 second, I just want to mention that if you did select no, if you did not want to use your social, you hit no, and then on the next screen, it'll give you option to select which ID are you going to upload. So then you would select from a drop down saying driver's license or passport or whichever ID you're using. And then it'll say upload here. And then that'll happen towards the end, but you would select driver's license. Again, to the bottom right, there'll be a button that says next. You would hit that, and then it'll take you to the next screen. So once you're done with entering your social, then it'll take you to a screen to enter your name and date of birth. So you would put in, again, your first name and your last name. Middle name is optional. I would please make sure, just double check your name, any spelling mistakes or anything, try to avoid those. And then you would put in your date of birth. And then it'll ask you which program are you trying to certify with. And so here there are two options. One, yes, I have Medicaid or SNAP benefit, or you would say, no, I don't. So in first scenario, let's try to click on the first button that says, yes, I have SNAP benefit or Medicaid. And then when you hit yes, again to the right corner, they have a next button which will turn blue, and then it'll take you to the next screen. What happens in many cases is if you have used your last four of the social, and if you have selected yes as Medicaid or SNAP, it'll use a third-party verifier and automatically verify your information and see if your benefit is active. In that case, you won't have to really upload your documents or anything, and you should be able to just smoothly go through. In some cases, in case if it did not go through, then it'll take you to another screen to do the upload of the document. So we're going to take a moment and go back to one more step, which says, so if you don't have Medicaid and if you don't have SNAP, then you would hit the second option that says, no, I don't have Medicaid or SNAP. And then you would again click on the right bottom saying next. Then it'll give you a drop down sorry, not a drop down, but a checklist of different programs. So the first one will say federal Pell Grant. The second will say Veterans Pension. Third will say federal housing assistance. Fourth will say Social Security income. Fifth will say supplemental, like a WIC benefit. And so, and tribal area doesn't apply to us, but then you would have a seventh option that will say, I don't think I participate in any benefit, but I do qualify through income. So that is the one you want to select if you don't have any benefit program. Again, it is a seventh option from the top, and it is a second option from the bottom if you are in that list. And then you'll click on the right where it says next. It'll turn blue based on your selection, and it'll take you to the next screen. And you're literally to the almost tail end of applying for your benefit program. The process is very simple. Over here, like I mentioned, if you had Social Security, if you provided the program, it'll straight take you to review screen. You won't have the previous one. If you did not have and you selected based on income, it'll still bring you to the review screen. This is your one-time opportunity to just make sure your name is correct, your address is correct, your date of birth is correct. If it is not, on the top right corner, you will see a small edit button. It has like a pencil with a paper symbol on it as well. And so you would click on that top right edit button, make any edits if needed. If you don't have any edits, you would just literally click on the bottom right that says check my eligibility. Now, before you click on that, if for any reason you feel like, oh, I need to go back and maybe fix something, to the left bottom, there is a back button where you are able to go back to the application as well. But once you do process from this step, you will not have that option anymore. So again, make sure you go through that review and make sure all your information is correct. All right, we're going to proceed further by saying, check my eligibility. And it's going to ask you for one time to create an account and a password. So what happens here is, because you're doing an online application, you have the flexibility of tracking your application, how far the process went, and making any adjustments. And in order for you to go back and do that, you do need to create an account. So there will be a field that says username. Again, you can use your email address as your username, and then you need to create a password. The suggested password is like 12 characters. Actually, it says 8, but I personally prefer to recommend and say just keep it 12 characters with a capital numbers, a symbol, and a number. And once you have your password, you would enter that in the field. It'll ask you to confirm your password. And then to the bottom right, it'll have a button that says create account and sign in. So this is where you would click on it. It'll turn blue and take you to the next screen. Now, again, this is optional. If you are in a home that is, say, multi-dwelling, and the system recognizes that, or sometimes, we live in an area where maybe, the quite the jurisdiction has not been figured out, it might ask you to confirm your location. Again, it does not happen in every case, but in some case, if it does happen, then it'll ask you for confirming your address. If you feel that there is an issue with it, on the next screen, it'll have like a map, a Google map with a drop pin that you're able to drag and drop and just place it there and just identify your location. Then you would again click on the bottom right corner with next. And this is a section where it'll come in and just ask you, based on the selections you made on the application, it'll ask you for the appropriate documents. So this is where you would be uploading. Again, this screen does not come for everyone. It only comes if that third-party verifier that I talked about initially was not able to verify. Then it'll bring you to the screen and say, document upload. So it says, do you have a document that shows your income? It's going to be a simple yes and a no question. Again, if you have a benefit program, then you would say no. but I have a document to show that I participated in a program. If you have a document with related to income that you're trying to prove, like pay stubs, W-2, tax return, you would say, yes, I have the document. So the first option is yes for documents. Second option is no. Over here, we're going to use the scenario of yes, and then bottom right, we'll click next. Then it'll double check how many households are in your home. Remember, I mentioned earlier, your income is based on your household. So if you're mentioning how much your income is, you have to mention how many people are in your household. So you would mention one person in your household, or two or three. It'll just ask you, is your income below a certain number? So if you enter one, it'll say 29,000. If you enter two, that'll turn to 39. So based on the number of household members you put in, it'll ask you for that income number. And then you would hit one. In this case, you would hit yes for the below income of 29,000. And then at the bottom right, you would hit next, which will turn blue. All right, and then it brings us to our last screen where it is going to, we already know what documents it needs, but the application will also tell you which documents you need based on the selection you made for the program. And it'll say, okay, give us your pay stub, or give me your tax return form, or your social security benefit statement, or an unemployment letter, you know, whichever one applies. And then in the very center of the screen, there will be a blue button that says take a photo. Again, if you're using your phone or a tablet, that's what it'll say. And if you have taken a picture before, then you'll also have an option saying upload a photo. So you can either say take a photo, which you can take right on the site, or you can say upload a photo and then take it from your previous photo album where you might have saved your ID or document. Again, this will be in the center of the screen, and then you would click to the bottom right that says next. It'll turn blue once you have uploaded the document. And it'll take us to our final step, which is of signing. And there's a lot of little stuff written down in the print, and I'm going to give you a little gist of this. Is one, it is saying that the program that you're going to qualify through, that you have mentioned, is correct. The information that you're sharing is correct. And the most important thing, that if you do move to a different location, you need to notify ACP and your internet service provider in 30 days of that move. So it is your responsibility to notify ACP separately and your service internet provider that you will be moving. Your benefit will not automatically transfer to a new address if you're moving. Again, it'll say one benefit is allowed per household. A little bit go in detail of what is a definition of household in a few minutes. And it'll basically just say, once my benefit is up, I agree to recertify, which is typically 12 months after you have applied is where you have to do recertification. And you don't have to do a whole process again. It's just 2 clicks and pretty much done. So anyway, that's the gist of what they make you sign on. You don't have to physically sign. You can just type your name. There is a section that says your signature. Type your name below. So you would type your full name, just like you typed in the application. To the bottom right, it'll say submit, and this is your final step to submit the application. So we would click on that step, and then it'll say we are reviewing your documents, and it'll take us like 15 minutes to 24 hours. Typically, if you're doing an online application, I have noticed that if you log out and sort of take a little stretch, 5-10 minutes, come right back, log in, and it'll tell you your status right away. However, in any case, if you felt like you were not able to get that information, the application already generates an application ID number. So that allows you to track your application very easily here. So at this last step, it'll say you're reviewing your documents. And when you just scroll down on that screen, there will be a little box in the middle of the screen that says application ID number. That is your number that you need to provide to your internet service provider. Again, you would give that number once your application says you are qualified. And the way you will know is that when you log back, like you log out and then you log back in, and I'll show you that, I'll tell you that screen and where to find it. It's literally at the bottom right, little bit to the corner. There's a section that says application type, application ID, application created, expiration date, and next to it is a status, which is in blue. And that's where it'll say disqualified or not qualified or missing information, or it'll just say qualified. And so once it says qualified, you take that application ID number, give it to provider, and you're done. And at this step, it'll also give you additional information, which is you are approved and you get your benefit, and then it'll have a date. This date is very important to keep in mind. You want to call your service provider before that date that they have given you. Typically, that day is like 30-day period. So if you got your application approved, you don't have to call them right away. You have 30 days to give a call to your service provider. If you do miss calling them in that 30-day, unfortunately, you do have to reapply though. So please make note of your application ID number and the date for signing up with internet and that date information. All right, let's go to next. And basically, once your application is approved, you're set. Now, I talked about a few scenarios that, you know, if you did not qualify, then what happens? So you would basically sign in, and in the center, it'll say, we could not confirm your eligibility, or it'll say that household information missing, or your documents are missing, you know. And when you click on that disqualified or unqualified button, it is going to give you more information about what is it that they're talking about missing. And so when you follow those steps, it'll give you another option to correct that information. So if it is household people, it'll automatically populate that area for you. If it says you did not qualify through eligibility, then and you have a different benefit, you'll be able to reselect that again. So you don't have to reapply the whole application again. It'll literally just take you to those sections and allow you to make those changes. Also, again, it'll give you opportunity to upload a document with your new program that you're mentioning. And you'll follow the same process that we talked about. At the bottom right, they'll have button for hitting next for the next step. And then at the bottom left, there will be a button that says back if you need to go back to your application. All right, and then you should be able to submit it and pretty much be set on your way for receiving $45 per month for your home internet. So I'm going to quickly go over some quick tips about making sure that your application goes through in first shot. I get a very common question asked, can we do a paper application? Absolutely, yes, you can do a paper application. But there is some disadvantage, which is that you do not have an opportunity to track your application. And also it takes good 2 months to get the whole process done. Whereas the online application, like I mentioned, is literally 15 minutes and you're able to see what happened to your application, track it, and make edits in one portal. So I would highly recommend online application versus paper. However, if you do need paper, we're happy to share that. FCC's website also has it. They have application in different languages as well. Second tip, the name and the address on the application should match the documents that you're using for verifying. So please make sure your name and address is matching. Third tip, like I mentioned earlier, using last for the social is much faster because it allows you to take advantage of that third-party verifier where then you don't have to, you know, put in those documents. And if you don't have a social security, you could put 4 zeros, which is 0000, and it will still go ahead and take you to the next step of allowing you to upload an ID. This is again for people who don't have Social Security. They could literally just put 0000 and then upload their identification. Make sure you have a number for your internet service provider when you're done with your application. And I definitely suggest to use your email address as your username. I cannot stress this point. How many times I've heard people come to me and say, what is my username? I do not know. So not only are you now trying to create a different username and then you have to remember the password to it. So if you just use your email address as a username, you have one less thing to remember and it's easy to track as well. And so those are some of my quick tips. Let's see if I'm missing out any information. I think I covered pretty much everything. In this presentation, on the very last, actually second to last page, I have linked a lot of different resources from the FCC website. For example, ACP Toolkit, ACP Application Instructions. I have linked to an ACP video. They have like a 3 to 5 minute video. I can't remember, but it's a very short video where it literally walks you through the same process of how the application is done. And it is available in a video format over YouTube. So it is easily accessible for anyone. So if you do feel like you want to have that video, you can click on this presentation and it'll be that resource is connected here as well. If you need to know, if you want to check whether you qualify or not, they've created a small little widget on FCC's website. So I've put in that link as well. And if you are just curious about whether you qualify or not, what documents you should have, again, that link is also entered here. And I do notice a hand raised, so let's go ahead and take a question. Go ahead, Jane.
Thank you, Vishnu. Yes, this is Jane Hager. Vishnu, I think that there is some confusion about using the ACP and applying it towards a data plan for cell phone service. Can you clarify that?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that question. So, and I wish companies were not doing this. ACP benefit is really meant for the wired internet connection for your home. It is not for wireless service. There is a separate benefit program for the wireless service, which is called Lifeline. Again, the qualifying factors for that is different. However, the application portal for both these applications is the same. And so what's happening is a lot of companies like, and I hate using the names and singling them out, but like Metro PC or consumer cell phone cellulars, let's see, Straight Talk, which one is that? Metro, can't remember the full name. And a lot of these service providers are basically saying, oh, okay, if you're low income, we'll just apply for on your behalf and then get you the phone for free. Well, what they're doing is they're applying you for Lifeline, then they're applying you for ACP because it automatically qualifies you. Like if you qualified for ACP or Lifeline, you automatically get both. And so now without your knowledge, they're taking and applying you in both the benefit. And so they're taking more money and giving you only one service, which is wireless. When technically you have wireless service with Lifeline and ACP with your wired connection. And so unfortunately, I won't be able to do anything in that scenario where they have already applied on your behalf. You don't even have information of that ACP. So you would have to go back to that service provider and say, I do not want to apply my ACP benefit to my cell phone. I want to use that on my home line. And that way, then they'll have to take that ACP out there, and then we'll be able to do the process again. Sorry, that was a long answer, but the process is very confusing.
Can I piggyback on that? Just I've
Yes.
had a situation for a person who lives in a complex that offers campus-wide internet.
Okay.
in that situation, could the ACP also be applied to his cell phone service if he qualifies for Lifeline?
ACP benefit, so like I mentioned, the service providers are doing it. I don't know how they're doing it, but my understanding is that ACP is really for the home wired connection of internet.
Okay,
So,
thank you, Vishnu.
yeah.
Thank you.
And I think my last slide is just with my contact information of Marylanders Online. So I think all of you will be getting it. I'm just going to mention, if you do have any questions, you need any assistance to do this application, we'll be happy to schedule an appointment, meet you in person. If you're in one of the areas where we have our tech educators, and go from there. But I'm going to say our Marylanders Online number, which is a toll-free number, 1-866-206-8467. I repeat, our number is 1-866-206-8466. We are open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can also email us on marylandersonline@umd.edu. And I do see another hand raised. Let's go ahead and take a question. Go ahead, Maria.
Hi, so I guess mine's not really a question, but I did want to add on that if you do apply and qualify for ACP and you're verified, when you sign up, make sure that you are using the internet. I would say at least once a week to be safe, because they will cut your ACP off if it's not being used.
Oh, thank you for bringing that point. Yeah, so and actually that did happen to one of the person last week, is they went out of town on a trip for more than 30 days. And so their home internet was not used for 30 days. So they did receive a notice saying, if you don't live here anymore, then we will cut your internet and things like that. So, well, it doesn't. So let me make a correction. It does not cut your internet, but it cuts your ACP benefit program. Okay. So again, you can always call FCC and say, hey, I'm out of town and do not discontinue my benefit because I'm returning back from a trip, and they'll just happily keep it continued. So if you are going to go for more than 30 days, and if you do get that notice, give a call to FCC so they can reinstate it. And I know it's a little annoying process, but it's a fairly simple process. It gets done pretty quickly. But yeah, you do have to take that step though. Any other questions? And I did go a little over time. I apologize, Marguerite. I think we should hand it over to Marguerite so she can take us forward.
Thank you, Vishnu.
And once again, Maria will be hanging around. So if there's any question that comes towards the end, feel free to ask us those.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Can you hear me, Julie?
We can. Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marguerite.
Absolutely. That was a great presentation.
Yes, excellent.
And I do have questions that I'll follow up with you for later. So good afternoon. Yes. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, beautiful. Sorry, I have to say that.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm happy that you all are here. And I'm going to share some information about the National Federation of the Blind. And because we're in Maryland, I want to emphasize of Maryland. And I know a lot of people refer to us as the NFB. And absolutely, there's nothing wrong with using that acronym. NFB, or the National Federation of the Blind, is a national organization with affiliates in every state, including DC and Puerto Rico. So National Federation of the Blind is quite vast, and we've been around for quite a number of years. Actually, it got started in 1940 in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And in 1978, we bought a building in Baltimore in what many know as the Riverside community, just past Federal Hill. And so our national headquarters has been located there for quite a number of years in Baltimore. And, you know, if you haven't come to visit, please do. It's a wonderful facility, and there's a lot going on. And I think you will find it very impressive. So what's in a name? I'll start there. National Federation of the Blind. And I always emphasize that little word OF, because a lot of organizations that service the low vision and blind community will be called for the blind. And the emphasis here is that the National Federation of the Blind is membership based, and it is governed and run by blind individuals, which is a huge and a very important distinction. The National Federation of the Blind is an advocacy organization, and once you get involved in what we're doing, you'll see how absolutely effective we've been on the national as well as the local levels around the country. So what can you gain by connecting with the National Federation of the Blind? It's a, you know, intricate organization. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of education for young students, maybe 4 years old to about 12. There's something called the Bell Academy, and it's you know, been extremely important to young blind students who are learning how to manage living in a world of blindness. And sometimes our public education doesn't quite adequately give our young people what they need in order to not just survive, but to be able to thrive. And so the Bell program is sort of a program that's teaching Braille. It's an enrichment and learning opportunity in literacy. A lot of people have a saying that Braille readers are leaders. And if you know anything about being able to keep up with your information and your notes, I mean, we have a lot of technology that will help with that, but Braille has been very effective. And for people who start off blind, it really makes a difference when they're, you know, getting their basic education in place. And so we have that program going on. The other thing that's been very important, I think, with the National Federation of the Blind is in educating people who are blind in how to manage. And a lot of people, you know, didn't have that opportunity, whether they were born blind or not, or when they lose their vision, such as I did as an adult. I needed to get some skills and some tools in order to be able to manage blindness. And I was introduced to something called structured discovery. And before that, I'd been introduced to something that was probably more structured, you know, where folks were sort of showing me and telling me about things and sort of altering some of the tools so that I would be safe. And an example of that is I remember receiving a kitchen knife that had a guard on it so that I wouldn't cut myself. And I found that thing so cumbersome. It caused me more trouble than I ever got to use it successfully. But the point I'm trying to make is that structured discovery is sort of a combination of structure and allowing you to discover with the support of a teacher who is in many cases low vision or blind, and able to teach you some basic skills and allow you to understand what they are, practice them, and then send you off incrementally in being able to use those skills and tools out in the environment. And I'm telling you, it feels a bit scary because for all intents and purposes, if you've been sighted, or even if you haven't and you've been sheltered, to get out there in the environment and in the community and sort of navigate on your own can seem very daunting. And it's certainly not for everyone right away, but I think it's worthwhile for you to get an opportunity to, discover if it's the best thing for you. And in order to do that, you need to be informed. And so especially if you low vision, you're using the limited amount of sight that you have. And sometimes, at least in my case, I would get into more trouble than I needed to be in because I was determined to use what I had, even though it wasn't serving me well. And to be able to give your vision a break and learn how to use the other components of your senses to manage your environment is quite an experience. And if you give yourself an opportunity to experience that, then you can make an informed decision about how you want to move forward in your ability to manage your blindness. And so structured discovery I found to be extremely important. And the National Federation of the Blind has 3 teaching facilities around the country. But here in Maryland, we a lot of people have gone to Blind Industries. People call it BISM, and they use the structured discovery method in their training at the SAIL program, which is the Seniors Achieving Independent Living, and the CORE program, which is for the residential younger. Well, not always, because just the residential program for people who want to learn how to manage their blindness. And so National Federation of the Blind, we do scholarships for students who are undergrads as well as graduates. And we do that on the local level as well as the national level. And so that sort of brings me back around to one of the things that I was very perplexed about when I first got introduced to the National Federation of the Blind, and it was all the fundraising. The first time I went to a meeting and they were asking, on different levels for funding of things, and I felt like I was at a Baptist revival because they were asking for so much money. But then I discovered, after looking into what the National Federation of the Blind is all about, is that a lot of the programs that I just mentioned are supported and funded by its membership and friends of the National Federation of the Blind, which is a huge distinction in a lot of ways with what goes on with organizations that are supporting people living with disabilities. And it allows for a level of freedom that, some other organizations, may not have. In addition, advocacy, as I mentioned before, is extremely important to what the National Federation of the Blind does. And it's important to understand that the National Federation of the Blind supports the idea that, with the tools that we need and the education and, raising the expectations of what's possible for blind individuals. We just need to have things accessible so that we can live the lives that we want. And that means something different to many people. But what I found with the National Federation of the Blind is there's a high ideal. But one of the most powerful things about it is that many of its leaders are willing to meet everyone where they are and help you understand how to advocate for yourself and advocate for other blind people in the community. And, you know, I've used the word blind, and I've also used low vision. And what I want to tell you is that the National Federation of the Blind uses the word blind. And a lot of people sometimes have, you know, some difficulty with that, especially if you're living your life and you do have some usable vision. You know, sometimes people don't want to be considered blind. They see that as a distinction that they're not ready to embrace. And what I discovered is that when the National Federation of the Blind uses the word blind, they're not just talking about how much vision that you have. It's more about the fact that whatever vision you have, you are challenged about being able to do things safely with that amount of vision. And so you need some help and some support. And so it's more about whether you need that or not when we use the word blind. And so I think that is a clarity that can help people when they're thinking about even structured discovery, because one of the things that happens in structured discovery is that you are taught under teaching shades, or some people call them sleep shades. And so you're taught as though you have no usable vision. And again, as I said, that's a distinction that can be very daunting. But I would recommend that you try it out and from your informed experience, make a decision, not just let your fear of it determine what's possible. I can say that training is empowering on many levels, and it's a foundation that you know, that you can really grow from. It teaches you as you move forward. There's plenty of opportunities to get involved with the work and the knowledge of the National Federation of the Blind. Here in Maryland, we have several chapters and divisions. There are chapters all through the state, and the divisions are the Senior Issues Division. We've got parents of blind children. And so those divisions do a lot of work to support the work of the National Federation of the Blind, but also to help support individuals as they're moving forward and, you know, becoming trained and able to live in an environment that they can be successful in. There's a at-large chapter for the state of Maryland and in every other state as well. And so the membership there a lot of times would be people who are newly blind and they're living in sometimes remote or rural areas, or they're living in places where a place that they can go physically is not easily accessible to them for a number of reasons. And it's an opportunity to connect with other blind individuals, get information, share information, and to be supported in your journey into learning how to thrive as a blind person. And so there's an opportunity to join any of these chapters. Our membership for the year, in most cases, is something like $5. There's also an opportunity to get lifetime membership, so it's not very difficult to join in that way. But before anyone joins one of the chapters, it's always a great idea to come hear about what's going on, hear about the philosophy of the National Federation of the Blind, understand what it's about a little bit, and then decide if you want to join an organization such as the National Federation of the Blind. We have a website that's accessible. The website is www.nfb.org. And that's at the national level. And for each of the affiliates, it would be www.nfb. For Maryland, it would be MD. And there's a lot of information on the website. Oh man, it's a plethora of information. It's an opportunity to just look around and see some of the things that are going on, especially in the state of Maryland. We've got quite a powerful organization here in Maryland, and if you haven't come to a meeting, I would encourage you to come. Normally, we have a state convention each year, and our convention for many years has been the end of October or the first part of November. I'm sad to say this year that's not going to be the case. We were planning on the weekend of November 10th through the 12th. And unfortunately, the hotel that we were going to have this convention decided that on the 30th of this month, October, they're going to be closing their doors. And so with a lot of work, we discovered that just weren't going to be able to do it this year. So we're actually postponing it until February 16th through the 18th. So we're going to have our 2023 and 2024 conventions during that time. And, as we get more information about that, I would love to, through Jane, share it with everybody that's interested. But you can go to the website. There's information there now. Also on November the 11th, we are having what we call a business meeting, and there's information that you can find on the website as well about that meeting. And there is a registration fee, but you're welcome to come and hear about some of the things that we'll be doing at the conventions. That's where the membership gets to vote, and we get to share the kinds of things that we would like to work on to empower the National Federation of the Blind. We work on things like voting rights. And in Maryland, last year, we had several issues that we brought before the Legislative Services during their session, January through April. One of them was that pharmacies around Maryland are mandated to provide medications and formats that the individual can independently their medications. So I think 2025, I think that's going to be, the law for the state of Maryland. And so we had a great deal to do with that. And, we've been working on a bill to help to improve the voting for people who want to have a private vote, and a secret ballot is supposed to be guaranteed to all citizens. And many of us as blind people have to, involve the sighted community to help us get our votes in. So we're working on that. So stay tuned for that. In January, we go to DC, Capitol Hill, and there on the national level, we're working on issues that are of great importance to the membership. But even greater than that, the National Federation of the Blind, the work that's done not only benefits our membership, but it benefits all blind people. And so, no matter what, we feel like the work is expanding what's possible for all of us. And so, check us out, see what's going on, see how, this community can serve you, or how you can be a part of helping the community do the things that make a difference for all of us. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about some of the events that happen, like this is October. And so this is Blind Equality Achievement Month. And so throughout the month of October, all over the country, blind people are coming out into the community and having activities that involved the greater community so that, we're getting to talk with other people and they're getting to talk with us and to see us in action so that there's not such or as much of a mystery about what's going on with blind individuals. I know for myself, because I was sighted and I started losing my vision as an older adult or as an adult. And it took a while, but in 2008, I became totally blind. But I just discovered that, I had ideas that weren't empowering about being blind. And it was such a scary idea that I did not want to know anything, hear anything, or find out anything about what the blind community was doing, because I thought that it would make me blind, more blind than I was becoming, because I didn't understand what that really meant. At any rate, it's worthwhile checking us out. Our phone number is 410-659-9314. And there is a menu tree, and you can also speak with an operator. One of the things that you can connect with is the Independence Store, which is a great resource here in Baltimore. It's on the national level, but you can go down and check out things like magnifiers and watches and all manner of devices, low tech as well as high tech. And, it's a great place to visit if you like. But you can also call and talk to them about the things that they're selling, and they will mail it out anywhere in the country for you.
Marguerite, sorry to interrupt, but we are a
Yes.
little bit over time.
Okay.
We're right on 4:04, and I know people have to be dropping off, but
Yes,
thank you so much.
you're very welcome.
Appreciate that. And is there any questions from anyone for Marguerite before we wrap up? Doesn't look like we got any hands up.
Okay.
Okay. I do want to let everyone know that, please keep in mind about the iPhones. I will be getting in touch and sending labels out so you can get those back to Teltech so they can get fixed. And we're looking forward to Tuesday. Tuesday we will jump into the blind show with our trainer Diane Ducharme at 3:00, and
Yes.
we will be making sure that if there's any kind of information that you need, if she's gonna be sending out any documents or anything like that, you'll have it beforehand. And also a reminder about the survey that is in the chat now, and I'm going to send that out as well in an email after this.
Okay.
So thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you so much, Marguerite, for your presentation. Really
You're very
appreciate
welcome. Thank you.
it.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.